Hey BookTube, this is Mickey and I am here to do a book tag for you guys. This is VEDA Day 10 and man, this is hard. Like, I'm only on day 10 and I have to go for like 30. There's 31 days in August, so let's see what happens. But anyways, the mid-year book Freakout tag is a tag created. I can't remember who the creators are. I'm gonna try and put it in find out and put it in the down box below. But it was created. This tag was created so that we could reflect on the things that we've read so far this year and talk about some of our plans for the future. So I'm gonna just jump into it. And the first question in the mid-year book Freakout tag is best book you've read so far in 2016. I'm going to give that to Another Country by James Baldwin. I read a lot of really good books this year, but that book was really left a really strong impact on me. It's a book about a bunch of different people who live in New York and in different ways that their lives intersect, and they come from different races and different backgrounds. Some are poor, some are wealthy, some are they have different sexualities, they have different beliefs, and so on and so forth. And it just looks at the different ways in which class and gender and race sort of affects the way we interact with one another. And it's lots of love and hate and pain, and it's just a really beautiful piece. It's a really hard piece to summarize. I did a review of it, which I'll link up in the little annotation thing, but it's definitely a book that I highly recommend. It was definitely one of my favorites. Best sequel you've read so far in 2016. That will be The Story of a New Name by Elena Ferrante. Just read it a couple weeks ago. Did a review of it, which I will also post above. I just really like it. It's the second book in the Neapolitan series by Ferrante, and it follows this pair of female friends as they grow from young girls into women, and the separate paths that they take, and how they kind of how they remain connected. And because the thing that's really interesting about the series is that it starts with the two friends estranged, actually. The very first scene in My Brilliant Friend is Lila's son calling up Elena and being like, I can't find my mom, and it turns out that they haven't talked in a while. So we're sort of watching this, and I think the goal is to figure out where this estrangement came from, like what happened that made them stop being friends. So super curious to see where this is going. New release you haven't read yet but want to. I'm gonna say Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. I read Deborah Levy's short story collection Black Vodka last year, which I thought was fantastic. I wrote a blog when I was trying to write a blog. I wrote a blog post about it because I really liked it. If I were to write fiction, if I were to write short stories, I would like my prose to be kind of like hers. It's just really clean and neat and straight to the point, but it still manages to pack a punch, and I just really like it. And her story Hot Milk has been longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. Her novel Hot Milk has, and so I would like to check that one out soon. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I don't really have that many. Andre Ackerman has a book coming out. I think it's called Enigma Variations or something like that. I don't really follow new releases that much, but I did see that he had a new one coming out. I read his book Call Me By Your Name last year, and it was fantastic. It was a really great romance book about this guy, this young man who meets this writer who's visiting, or I think he was like a writer or a scholar of some sort, and he's staying in his parents' like house as a visiting writer. Like his parents like host writers and scholars and stuff sometimes, and artists, and the two of them form a relationship. And it's just a really beautiful kind of love story, and I really liked it. And so I'm excited to try out Ackerman's new work whenever it comes out. Then the biggest disappointment this year was American Psycho by Bret, Easton, Ellis. It was boring to me. I know a lot of people like it. but I thought it was boring. And I didn't even finish it because I was so bored by it. But to each its own. Biggest surprise this year was actually my reread of The Awakening by Chopin, which I have right here. You can kind of see. I read this in high school, thought it was okay. Like, I think I got more out of the discussion that I had on this book because I had an excellent teacher, English teacher, when we read this book. Shout out to Mr. Staggerwall. It was just really fantastic. He was really great at leading discussions about this book, and I think I liked that more than I liked the actual book. Like, I thought the actual book was just okay when I read it in high school, but I reread it this year, and it's literally one of my most favorite things I've read this year. Like, it is fantastic. It's about this woman. It's set, what is this? Set in like the 1870s, something like that. And this woman decides that she wants to live her own life separate from her husband, and she starts doing a lot of things to try and separate herself from him. She falls in love with another man. She cheats on her husband. She tries to become an artist. Like, she tries to do all of these things, but she tries to do them still while in the confines of marriage. And it just sort of explores her awakening and becoming aware of her own feelings and thoughts and desires. And it's just fantastic. It's so good, and I was so surprised how much I loved it. Favorite new author, debut, or new to you? Both of these are just authors that are new to me. John Keene, who wrote Counter Narratives. I did a review of that I'm going to post above. And Joan Didion is my other one. She wrote The Year of Magical Thinking, and I loved that book. It is just a really great book. Joan Didion is a really like straightforward, rational kind of human being. She's a doer, and when her husband dies suddenly, her way of trying to deal with her grief is by being very rational about it. She tries to figure out, well, what can I do about this to fix it? And anyone who has ever lost anyone knows that there isn't anything you can do about it. Unfortunately, it's literally something that you just kind of have to experience. There's no way to really treat it. If you try and look at it in a rational sort of way, it just doesn't work because there's just nothing rational about grieving, about losing someone suddenly. And it was just really beautiful and interesting to watch her try and do that. She just seems like a really interesting person, and I definitely want to read more by her. I am looking forward to reading Democracy sometime soon. Newest fictional crush. I don't really have those. I don't fall for fictional characters, especially not in books. Sometimes on TV shows I do, or like movies, but not usually in books. So I have to skip that one. Newest favorite character. I'm just going to pick the cast of Cutting for Stone. Everybody in that book except for Marion, who is our protagonist and the dude who's telling the story. I didn't like him. I had a whole bunch of problems with Marion, but everybody else I really loved. I thought Ghosh was really great. He's like the patriarch kind of the family, and he's just really funny and caring and loving. He's just a wonderful father and husband. Tahima, who's a wonderful female character who I loved. I love their relationship, the way they both support each other. She was a surgeon. They were both doctors. I think she was prenatal, and he was just like a general physician. But the way that they supported each other, I just really loved that. I love Jeanette, who was like their neighbor's friend, who the boys grew up with. I love Shiva, who was Marion's twin, and how he just viewed the world differently from Marion. He kind of had this really like detachment from the world. He saw it really rationally, and I really liked that. I just loved all the characters. It has a really great cast of characters in Cutting for Stone. Like, it's the selling point of that book, so definitely recommend it for that reason. Book that made you cry. That would most definitely be Another Country. It is just really, it can be really heartbreaking, especially under the influence of alcohol, because I had like 2 rum and cokes and then went home and was reading Another Country, and it was an awful combination. So that would be the book that made me cry. Book that made you happy. I talked about this in my inbox outbox video this week. Was Relish by Leucine Easley. It's a recounting of a bunch of different experiences that she's had with food. Almost all of them are really positive. Like, you know, there's no tragedy that befalls her in this book. It's just normal life shit that she goes through. And I still loved it. I still liked it. It was such a pleasant way to like pass an afternoon. And so it was definitely a book that kind of made me happy because I have a tendency to read a lot more like heavier types of books. So I think I'll give it to that one. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. At this point, I don't even know if you guys are going to be able to see this book, but it is The Game by A.S. Byatt. I was going to see if the lighting would be better on my face. No, it's not. And if you can see, it's like these two ladies playing chess, and there's a snake. Anyways, I bought this solely on the cover from a used, from the library book sale. I don't really have a lot of beautiful books because I get most of my books used, but this was one where I really, really thought the cover was pretty. So that's why I bought it. So I picked that one. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Check down below at my Read My Own Damn Bookshelf from Goodreads. I also had a Tumblr post that I made about it. There's lots of books in that list that I have to read. And favorite book community member. That's mean. Like, that's really hard to ask me to pick like one person. So I'm like, I think what I'm gonna do, instead of trying to pick like all of my favorites, because I'll be here listing them forever, I think I'm just gonna name off 2 booktubers who I've recently discovered who just kind of joined the community, and so I want to kind of drive some traffic their way if I can, because they're fabulous. And that is Bree Hill over at Bree Hill. She's really great. She reads some really interesting books. Like different takes on different genres. Like, for instance, like a lot of people read celebrity memoirs, and she read like a memoir of Angie Martinez that I thought was like really awesome that she read that. She read Passing by Nella Larson, which reminded me that I need to reread that book. So like she just has like really interesting taste in books, and she's a great commenter too. Like, she's just really involved in the community, and I think that she deserves way more subscribers. So please go check her out. And then Rio, I don't know if her name is Rio, but her channel is called Rio Reads, and I literally just discovered her today because Monse posted a video shouting her out. So I really liked her. I thought that she's really snarky and straight to the point, and she has really excellent taste in books. So I would check her out also. And that's the end of this tag.